So good.
I'm loving it.
Here we go. Yes, good evening, Melrosians the world over. I'm Tom Catalini.
I'm Jen LeClaire.
And apparently I'm the guest host, Michelle Carson. Who knew?
Yeah.
Yes, you are. And this is Let's Talk Melrose. Melrose, a show where Melrosians talk to Melrosians about Melrose. And Michelle Carson, you are our co-host tonight. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know, Michelle is a citizen extraordinaire of Melrose. Founder or co-founder of Melrose Grad Night, the safe overnight razzmatazz
Party of the year.
Senior year a graduate experience that is really just a great community event. We've talked about that on the show. Course champion of all things Buckaloos and whatever else is happening around town. So Michelle, welcome to the show. And what's it like to be on the inside?
It's a little nerve-wracking, but very exciting. I've had this mug, I think, since they came out. So I feel like I've been practicing for this day for months. So I think I'm ready.
Yeah, you've had the merch, and you've been requested with more than one fan. The people want to see you here, Michelle. So thanks for joining us.
Let's give the people what they want.
Yes.
Here we go.
And the people can participate. So we are looking for a series of co-hosts to join us here on the panel. And all you have to do is go to letstalkmelrose.com, click the button, and you can send us your email and a quick note. You can also nominate somebody else, which is kind of how Michelle got here. So who better to recommend Melrosians than other Melrosians? So let's build the network and get some more folks in the queue so we can keep bringing this fantastic news and entertainment program to Melrosians around the world. And tonight, Jen, I'm going to throw it to you now. What are we covering tonight?
Yeah,
what's the rundown?
Speaking of Melrosians around the world, let us know where you are watching from. We love to see where everybody's coming from. So what street? If you want to try to chat with us in the chat, we'll do that. We'll try to answer if we can see it in time. Thanks for joining us, Michelle. We're talking about a few things this week. I'm curious if you guys think if Melrose is reaching a sort of a breaking point in terms of our political discourse with like the Facebook community pages. The patch has asked people to be a little nicer, things like that. Tom, you're going to help me decide on the car data the ballot question number 1 about car repair or something. I've only just started hearing about it. Okay, perfect. And then we also have special guest Janice Bissex of Cannabis Wellness to talk to us about cannabis. She's a cannabis health expert, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about CBD and health benefits and how to smart shop if you end up trying Garden Remedies, which just opened in Melrose. So that's what I got.
All right. Well, I don't know what else people could ask for. You know what that means, Michelle?
It sounds newsy to me.
It's time for the news. That's great. You have deduced the pattern. Clearly, you've watched all 44 episodes, and you have deduced the pattern. It is actually time for the news. And Jen, why don't you kick us off with the first topic tonight?
Yeah, I think what everybody's talking about, school starts this week, starts tomorrow, in fact. So if you have a kid in the Melrose Public School system, they will have
school night.
It's a school night tonight. They cannot stay up too late watching Let's Talk Melrose. To bed just after Let's Talk Melrose.
That's right.
You youngsters. Got to get up bright and early tomorrow morning.
I think our peak demographic is between like 8 and 68.
Right. So shout out to the class of 2021. They had a physically distanced pep rally out there on the field. Yeah. So
Michelle was there. Michelle was there. She's an insider on these things.
I know.
Parents weren't invited. What was it like down there, Michelle?
It was really nice. You could just tell from the beginning, they were just so glad to be together.
Yeah.
And they were great about wearing their masks, and the seating was socially distant. And they really did a nice job with that. And parents made posters. Every single kid in the class had a poster on the outside of the field. Mr. Merrill spoke, some of the other admins. The mayor spoke, new superintendent. So it was a little bit of a rah-rah, but also a little bit of information. So it was kind of a combo between the pep rally and sort of a senior meeting.
Yeah.
But they seemed really happy to be there. So it was nice to see.
That's
Awesome. Quick shout out to Rex Kramer, fan of the show, who's watching live tonight. So we're still trying to make the connection to figure out maybe Rex is the next co-host. I don't know.
Yeah. We don't know. We don't know who you are, Rex.
But we want to know.
Yeah, we do. So let's see. Also, so guess what year, without cheating, either of you, what year the incoming kindergarten class is the class of what? Anybody quickly?
36.
So I don't know, how many years are you in school? 12. So K to 12, they say. So I'm going to add 13. I'm going to say 33.
33. Yeah. The class of
that right?
2033. Isn't that insane?
Wow.
So, so there was a group of volunteers that got together and made little welcome kindergartner bags with Melrose masks, class of 2023 buttons from the city and the mayor's office, coloring pages from the bridge, a letter from the mayor. It was kind of a nice welcome to Melrose
That
Public
sounds
Schools,
like
to
the work of
kindergartners.
this. That sounds like the work of the Spirit Squad, if I ever heard it.
The mysterious Spirit Squad.
Another mysterious group operating behind the scenes,
under the radar in
under the
Melrose.
radar in Melrose.
Well, speaking of volunteers who do great stuff, also I want to give one other shout out. So the Bridge obviously is the organization, not obviously to people. The Bridge is the organization that organizes all volunteers in Melrose, does the sort of background, the safety checks and things like that. Volunteers and kind of these community connections are needed this year now more than ever. Not only are there still opportunities to volunteer, but this, without having to kind of go into the schools are going to be doing a lot of this kind of stuff. You can come on and volunteer via Zoom to, maybe read to a class or something like that. So if you visit the Bridge website, and we'll put it up there, you can apply online to get approved, and they would love to have you as a volunteer. So check that out too.
And maybe we'll have some of the kids get their community service hours by co-hosting on the show.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, good one.
All right. What about the political discourse, Jen? You were talking about this. You feel like it's reached a boiling point, or is it kind of simmering? What do you want to talk about here?
I would say simmering. I don't know if there's a boiling point, if it's a boiling point necessarily, but I think we've felt recently that a lot of kind of what we're feeling at the national level is sort of trickling down into our community a bit more than normal. And so, we saw it, there was a sort of spin-off. First of all, the city produced a very nice 9/11 memorial kind of remembrance, but there was a spin-off event backed by a political candidate, and then it wasn't supposed to be backed by a political candidate, and it caused there was all sorts of discussion around that on the community pages. The community pages are great. I'm glad they're there. There's something like 13,000 Melrosians that are there talking to each other, but it can get pretty dicey and can get pretty nasty. And we all live here together. The Patch also recently updated their community guidelines, basically asking everybody to be just a little nicer online. So I feel like a lot of those things are happening right now. And
Michelle, you are all over the city physically participating in these events, but you also have a pretty presence online. I see you in the community forum and other places. What's your take? Have you seen it change, lately, or in the discourse?
Yeah, like Jen said, it's reflected what's happening nationally, and sort of the thing that boggles my mind is I feel like nobody's going to change anybody's mind. No matter what you say, so in general, people that go, oh yeah, I never thought about it that way. Oh, I think I'll change my mind now. It's just ugliness thrown back and forth. And when I do participate, I try to, ask a serious question. Because sometimes people throw stuff out there that's pretty tin hat material. Um, and I just tell me more about it. Don't make an outrageous claim. Tell me more. But yeah, it just gets crazy and people just let their anger take over and flow through their fingers. And I think say things that they wouldn't necessarily, as we always say, you wouldn't say this to somebody if you're in it in a
Right.
Starbucks.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of like starting of conversations, but you're right, kind of not that follow through. So,
Well,
I'm
then it
not,
sort of spirals, like
Mhm.
a reasonable conversation or question kind of starts, and then it sort of devolves into kind of something else. So I agree with you. I'm sorry if I interrupted you, Tom.
that's okay.
Back at you though. No, I'm just kidding. But I agree with Michelle that you're not necessarily going to change anyone's mind with throwing your opinion out there. So I agree with that. But I also think that when it gets nasty, what it also does is it shuts out other people from commenting. Like there's a lot of people I think who won't participate in a conversation because they're a little nervous about just getting hollered at basically. And I
Yeah.
think that's unfortunate. That's counterproductive to having a
Yeah,
conversation.
I have a lot of the right answers, but I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want to, insert my wisdom into the fray if it's not going to be,
Well
respected,
received.
well
Yeah.
received and respected. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
it is
like
unfortunate.
I'm anxious to hear your wisdom about whether or not I have a right to repair.
Yes. So
I don't know anything about this.
So we got this in the mail today, or at least I did here in Melrose.
Okay.
And this is the information for voters from the Secretary of State, and it's got all kinds of stuff in here. But the big thing is, and what's interesting is the two ballot questions, and we decided we'd talk about question 1 this week and question 2 next week. And the first question is about motor vehicle mechanical data, and it is basically a yes vote would provide motor vehicle owners and independent repair facilities with expanded access to wirelessly transmitted mechanical data, and a no vote would make no change. So what's interesting about this, and the reason why I wanted to look into it a little further, is there was a law passed back like in a standard set like back in 1996 to set up what they call an onboard diagnostic standard interface on all cars that were manufactured. And I used to have one of these code readers, right? So when the check engine light comes on and you have to go to the garage or to the dealership to find out what the code is and what it means and what you have to do. So they implemented this standard back in the 90s, which made it required that was what they call like open access. So I bought a thing on Amazon for like $30. And it's an OBD2 code reader. And so if the light goes on in my car, I can plug this thing in and you go through a little procedure and you can find, it's code 35 for whatever type of car. And you look it up. And a lot of times I had some cars that had some problems with like it would be like a vapor leak was the code. And it was basically, I had gone to the garage enough times to know that like, your gas cap is loose. Like, so like, you don't know if it's like a serious, multi-million-dollar problem or if it's like a loose gas cap. So I liked knowing that.
This is probably not a good method, but for me, when any one of those weird lights would come on in my car, I would just keep driving until the thing happened, and then I would figure it out. Like, the tire fell off. I guess that's what it was trying to tell me. Okay,
yes,
that's my method. Just so you know.
I think it's code 212 is the tire is about to fall off.
Off the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have the code,
it becomes apparent eventually.
That is true. Some of these things could be dangerous or expensive, but really what the law boils down to, or the question on the ballot, is who has the right to access this data? And I guess I was like, why are they updating this? Because if you look at it, Massachusetts has been on the cutting edge of this. And in 2012, we passed a right to repair law that ended up putting a stake in the ground, and the industry just decided to comply with that law nationwide as kind of the standard to allow this to continue. It was just sort of updated from the 1996. Now this question seems to be updating it for the internet age or whatever we're in now, where they want to give you access to data that is wirelessly transmitted. And what's interesting to know is,
like
first of all,
playlist.
Yeah.
They want to know what's on my playlist.
So first question is, what the heck is going back to the mothership? So these car manufacturers are collecting data, and it goes back to the manufacturer right now. and they collect that wirelessly. And it does include GPS location, braking habits.
Oh, I see.
There's a lot of data in there. So this is where the folks that are saying vote no are like, hey, this is scary stuff. And if we open up access, it opens up the opportunity for hackers to get in there and, and stalk people and things like that. So if you've seen the ads on TV, one of them's pretty scary about that access to the data. And the other one is pretty compelling in terms of just access to let your independent mechanic or you get access to your own data. If you own the car, you own the data, and fix it. And, it's disappointing that there isn't a better way to do this in terms of, storing the data on the car and not dealing with like some wireless transmission and access to some database somewhere or something like that. But anyway, that's the net of it is, do we keep going down this path where you have rights to your data, or are we going to listen to the cyber stalker fears? Now, in 2012 in Massachusetts, the current law passed by 86% voted in favor of it. So I feel like things are trending that way. I feel like that's the way I lean. I want control of the data and all that, but you get into the weeds a little bit, and it's a little bit scary, and it's kind of disappointing sometimes when I see questions like this on the ballot that, like, shouldn't the legislature take this up and enlist the expertise? But I guess maybe if you have to do something that's counter to what a powerful industry like the automotive industry wants to do, maybe the ballot question is the path.
Put it to the people. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Michelle?
I mean, it seems to me that the auto dealers, I mean, this is just from the, outside looking in, that they want to just keep access, like, no, that's just for us. And, you independent auto dealer, mechanics, and you don't need that stuff. But I think a lot of people have pretty tight relationships and strong feelings about their personal mechanics.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are the people you trust and that you work with, on a regular basis. And they're often a little less expensive than the dealership. So it seems that the dealership is just trying to maybe, keep a monopoly on that.
That's the argument of the folks over at ifixit.com. So there's all these online boards where they talk about car repair and things like that. And what I thought was interesting, what they said over there was they think the initiative should actually go further and require a physical wireless data off switch that prevents anyone, including the car maker, from having access. It raises a good point. Like, why are they collecting all this data about what I'm doing with the car? Like, it's supposed to be my car.
Yeah, right.
So
I'll call them when I need them, right?
I wonder if when you buy a car, do you sign something that says, I'm giving access, or I acknowledge that there is this access? Like, I don't know. I think when we buy a car, we just sign all the papers and don't even look at it.
All the
well, you know what, Michelle, you're
spots,
getting,
yeah.
now you're getting into the weeds.
And
I feel a transition coming on. We have a special guest this week, Janice Bissex of Janice Wellness, and we're right now, Janice, if you can hear us, asking you to turn your camera on.
There she is.
She did it.
Hi. There's your walk-up music.
Oh, wow. Will I get music too?
Yeah, your walk-up music, your zoom-up music.
Thank you.
Hello, friend and neighbor.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
So,
How are you?
welcome to the show, Janice. So, part of the reason we wanted to have you on the show for a while to talk about your specialty area with cannabis and your expertise. We want to learn a little bit about sort of the medical marijuana, the recreational marijuana, the CBD, oils, and all of that. And it's really spawned by one news item I forgot to mention, which was Garden Remedies opened on Saturday, had like a grand opening ceremony for the recreational marijuana. So they've been there for a couple of years in Melrose, over on Route 99 on the edge of town, doing medical marijuana, and now they're there for recreational marijuana. So Janice, we thought maybe you could tell us just really quickly a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into it, because I know you are a nutrition expert and you have expertise outside of the industry, and then kind of what drew you to that, and then we're going to want to learn from you.
Okay. So yes, I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, have been doing that most of my career. And then 4 years ago, my dad had some severe pain and they gave him opioids and they made him groggy and constipated and he hated them. So I asked his doctor, what about medical marijuana? Because I knew that it had just passed in Massachusetts. I knew nothing about it. I am never been a cannabis user. And the doctor said, I think that's a great idea. So I said, oh, I better learn about this. So I learned about it, got dad certified, went to a dispensary. He used it and he found relief without the side effects. So I decided to completely change my career, go back to school to become a holistic cannabis practitioner. So that's all I do now. I work with people who have pain, anxiety, insomnia, muscle spasms, a whole host of conditions, find relief, mostly using CBD, but sometimes they need medical cannabis as well. And so, you know, when we talk about recreational use, you know, Garden Remedies, they're an amazing outfit. I've met the director, the owner, Dr. Karen Casey. She's a cancer survivor. She's just amazing. And it's a great group and they offer a service. We are so lucky to have them in our community. And so now that they've opened for people that don't have a medical card, I mean, I call that adult use, you know, the recreational, you know, whatever. I mean, do I need a recreational? I mean, do I drink wine recreationally or I don't know. I mean, there's this stigma around cannabis use that isn't around having a glass of wine at dinner.
Right. Right. It's getting, do you think it's getting better though? I think it's obviously getting better because the industry's coming in and growing in Massachusetts.
It is getting better.
You know,
and the more you learn, honestly, 4 years ago, I had the same stigma. I grew up in the just say no generation. I mean, drugs are bad. Cannabis is a gateway drug. You know.
So I heard that pot shops are a way, legal recreational marijuana is so that executives and normal hardworking people can smoke pot and not get arrested or look for a shady dude in front of a little peach. That's what they're talking about on the community page. And I was like, where's there a little
Where's
peach
a little
around here?
peach? Yeah.
So like, I don't know the screening process for this community page.
I think they meant, I think they must mean cumbies, obviously.
Right. Exactly.
Interesting.
But the stigma is getting better.
Yeah.
And I think as time goes on, and I always tell people, because the people who say, we don't want that in our town, we don't want those people. Well, those people are, for example, my intern stopped by today and she went there to pick up gummies for her grandmother, who is in severe pain and can't sleep. I mean, those are the kind of people that are visiting these dispensaries. It's people who.
Yeah. Also, what if Nana just wants to have a few laughs?
That's absolutely true. Right. And again,
Right.
we don't judge people for having a beer or a glass of wine at dinner. And yet if someone has a couple of puffs on a joint, all of a sudden they're like, ooh, you know, they're smoking weed.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you my concern. I do have some concerns about the accessibility because I think there are some younger folks that find that more difficult to manage. But maybe even beyond that, in the format of the vaping, and I don't like that, and I'm scared of that from what I've read in the news. I don't vape or participate in that, but it just seems like of all the formats, is that one still dangerous? Because at one point in Massachusetts, they took all the flavored vapes, you know, cannabis or not, off the shelf and all of that. Do you know the latest on that?
Well, what they found is that almost all of those issues were with these underground, these black market vapes and not.
Okay.
See, that's why we need dispensaries so that they can be really regulated.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about the black market stuff coming in from other countries that often are contaminated. So, and also, Tom, you mentioned you're afraid of the access with the younger kids.
Yeah.
What they find is that states that have a medical cannabis or even adult use programs, the incidence of teenagers using it actually decreases. Because it's really no longer fun, Tom, if you're using cannabis for your kids, right?
Right. Right.
So it really has trended downward. Where it trends upward at a pretty steep curve is those over 65. That is the fastest growing segment of the population turning to cannabis.
For the
Nana.
reasons that you described. Yeah, I mean,
Because,
when
yes,
my aches and
pain-
pains start coming around, I would definitely come
If-
and see you, Janice. I don't, you know,
Right, 53% of people over 65 experienced pain in the last month.
right. And when you see on TV the you know, if you're experiencing pain, side effects may include, you know, like no,
Right.
thank you.
And
You know?
its side effect may include euphoria,
Right,
better
right.
mood.
Like that you feel
You know,
great.
if we were all, you know, using a little CBD or cannabis, you know, the Facebook pages would be a lot more prone to it.
Good point. Everybody
Michelle, what
mellow
questions?
out.
Michelle, I want to make sure you have a chance to jump in here and see what questions you have for Janice.
So tell me the difference between the stuff that you work with, CBD, versus medical marijuana versus adult use, you know, as you mentioned.
Okay, good question. First of all, I use the term cannabis because marijuana is a slang term that was brought into be in the early 1900s as a way to sort of disparage it. So it's been cannabis and been used medicinally for 5,000 years. So the difference is, so you have cannabis, which is comprised of over 100 cannabinoids. Okay, so there are cannabinoids. THC is one. That's the one that makes you high, makes you stoned. CBD is one. There's CBN, CBC. There are 100 of them, and they all work well together, and they provide their medicine best when they're consumed together. So if you can buy a cheap CBD product that's a CBD isolate, where they just pluck the CBD molecule out, not nearly as effective as a full spectrum or a broad spectrum product that contains the terpenes and the flavonoids and the other cannabinoids in the plant. But medical cannabis is the same as recreational or adult use cannabis. It's all cannabis, whether you're using it for pain, relaxation, anxiety, insomnia. It's all cannabis. Now there are different cultivars or strains. So if you want it for sleep, you might get a particular cultivar that's higher in CBN cannabinoid or myrcene, the terpene myrcene, because that's sedating. If you want something that's a little more energizing, you would go with a different strain. So that's why when you go to a dispensary, they have, you know, I think it's patient care associates or representatives at Garden Remedies that can explain all of this to you and guide you to the correct cannabis.
So you don't have to go in like, you know, if I go into a wine store, it's very intimidating, right? I don't know, you know, it's red and white, like what, you know, are you having chicken or, you know, so there's somebody there. If you go into like a Garden Remedies, a reputable place like that, there's somebody to help guide you through that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And when you
A
go into these
concierge?
places, it honestly, it looks a lot more like an Apple store than a smoke shop. A lot.
Interesting.
They are gorgeous, these dispensaries, the ones that I've been in Garden Remedies. I've been in there. I went to the grand opening of the medical a couple of years ago. I can't even tell you how beautiful these places are and how well regulated. You have to show your license before you go in. Nowadays, you typically need an appointment, or you can order online and then pick up. So you go, you figure out what you need, and you go and you pick it up. And I mean, I do a lot of that myself. I do a lot of counseling. That's all I do, really. People, whether
so I have to say, like I've done some counseling with you. I've got the Janice Wellness CBD oil, and I'm not sure how many people know like the difference between like CBD oil or whatever. I guess there's different formats for this. Well, but CBD is that this is not like I'm not hanging out with Nana late night, you know, having a few laughs with this. This is more like anti-inflammatory, or maybe help you sleep, like that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's a potent anti-inflammatory, it's anti-anxiety, it's neurocalming, it's good for concussion, stroke, to decrease the brain damage after those two things. It can help people sleep. We all have what's called, and I know I don't have 2 hours, but we all have what's called an endocannabinoid system. And it's a system of neurotransmitters in our bodies. And what happens is if you take CBD, it helps your own endocannabinoid system get back into balance. So we produce a cannabinoid called anandamide on our own, and that's called the bliss molecule. But if you don't make enough anandamide, just like if you don't make enough thyroid hormone, you take thyroid medicine. If you don't make enough anandamide and you introduce CBD, then it can help you with anxiety and depression for that reason, that it just gets your system back into balance.
Can I just give a shout out to the
That's so
bliss
cool.
to the bliss molecule?
Yeah, that's what yeah. We need more.
I don't know. I don't know a lot about science, but that one sounds good.
Watching Let's Talk Melrose. Melrose also has that effect on people. It's been
It does.
we're launching a study. We're actually launching a study soon that will show.
Are we in phase 3? Are we in? I think we're in phase 3. And so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
But it's
But
not
the-
You have to
randomized,
wait for the report.
double-blind, placebo.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's full of placebos. Don't worry about that.
Anyway.
So what about the just real quickly? We have to wrap up soon. But what about the different formats about sort of a liquid versus vaping versus smoking? Any thoughts on that, or where do they apply, or is that something you get out of a consultation?
Well, I mean, there are different ways you can take it. You've got, as you showed, you've got a tincture, you put it under your tongue, you hold it for a minute or two, it's absorbed in about 15 minutes. You can take a daily soft gel. That's just, you just take it once a day and it lasts all. You can get a topical. So this is something that people who come in, they have hip pain, they have knee pain, they have TMJ, they have migraines, they have eczema, psoriasis, bug bites, cuts. It's that analgesic. It's good for pain and for swelling and for inflammation. So some people don't even have to ingest CBD. You can just put it on your skin where it hurts and they can find relief.
And that's not the kind of thing that gets you high or does any sort of thing like that.
No,
That's just
no,
really the CBD is really just the anti-inflammatory, which you can apply in all those different ways.
Right. You won't get high. None of the products that I carry. No one's going to get high on that. And even with THC, sometimes if you add a little bit of THC, then it can actually help boost the pain reduction when you use CBD. So there's nothing wrong with THC. It's just that if you consume too much, you can get a little bit more intoxicated than.
Same as wine.
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
Right. A glass a day is good for you. What do they say about whiskey? I think that's
One
right
a
up
day.
there. I think that's
Just enough.
okay.
All right.
All right. So Janice, so you do this consultation, you have some products, and I think you offer a special discount for Melrosians, right? So we like to promote anything within 02176.
That's right. That's right. I do. I offer a 20% discount for residents of Melrose, and I've been known to deliver inside of Melrose too.
So we
several clients.
love all things that are Melrose centric. So
Another great reason to live in Melrose, right?
Garden Remedies sounds like it's worth a visit. Maybe get some help. Janice, definitely worth talking to. I can vouch for that. Definitely very
Janice
knowledgeable on all the CBD stuff. And it's just I thought that was interesting. I thought you were an interesting person to talk to, just knowing about your nutrition and general health background and sort of how you got into that. So amazing Melrosians.
Yes, we are so lucky. We're surrounded.
All over town.
Good stuff. Well, Janice, you know how we end this though, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Does anybody have a win of the week before we want to wrap this up? Or do we run out of time for that?
Michelle,
win of the week. You do our win of the week and then we'll wrap it up.
I don't know if you guys have heard, Melrose High School Band has been invited to play at Pearl Harbor for the 80th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. It's a memorial event, which is unbelievable. As kids are going to get to go to Hawaii. So that's amazing. And I know they'll need lots of community support to get there. So I guess stay tuned for all that. But
that's a great one. That is really cool. And I'm going to see if it's not too late for my daughter to join the band like right now, so we can go to Hawaii.
I might wait. The band probably needs some chaperones.
Right. Exactly.
LTMM remote.
Exactly.
From Hawaii.
All right. So maybe we'll either see you around Hawaii or Tom.
Hawaii 02176. We'll see you around town.
Thanks, everybody.